Hello everyone, our topic today is planning poker. So first of all, you can find planning poker at the very top of the dashboard. Um, so just press on it, planning poker, find new game. Okay, so for creating a new game, you're gonna find game name, game description, export estimates to story points, deck type, Fibonacci, and add coffee cards. So add coffee cards, this option will actually give your developers an opportunity to abstain from voting on the story. So I personally do not prefer having the developers not give their input. So I actually just remove it. So once you add a team name, for example, test, game description. So usually the game description will be sprint 32 for team test. That will be the game description. Next thing, we're gonna go to the edit backlog. So for editing the backlog, there are two ways for you to do that. I personally, before I go to planning poker, I touch base with the product owner and ask her, what are we going to point today? So she could actually tell me two things. First thing, she can tell me we're gonna point all of the unpointed stories for sprint 32, or she can tell me I'm just gonna point all of the a couple of stories that are just need pointing. So for that case, we're gonna put in a query to just tackle the two specific story points. For instance, or actually we're just gonna go for it. We're gonna go press key N, add, for instance, story OL. Do not forget the parentheses because the parentheses are very important. So that means I should have two specific stories, and here they are. So if the product owner said she needs to groom just those specific stories, this is the query that we're gonna use. If not, then we're gonna have to do a query to pull up all of the unpointed stories in the product backlog. So for that, you're gonna have to first add the team and find the team name. And in our case, we're gonna be using alt sheet check-in team 124. Our next step in the process would be the issue type. What kind of issue we're gonna be pointing? Are we pointing stories, bugs, or spikes? So I personally like to add everything, all kinds of issues, just to make sure that we don't have any unpointed issue in our backlog. So issue type, in, and then write the kind of issue types, which are story, bug, and spike. And make sure not to forget commas or parentheses. Otherwise, the query will not work. So here, the issue type has red underneath. That means it's not gonna be red. Make sure you press on it, and there it is. It should be okay. And now, story points. Why are we adding story points? We want to make sure that we're finding the empty story points in the backlog. So story points equal empty. And status. So the status of the story. You can have stories in abandoned status. So those stories could be unpointed, but they're still abandoned. So that's unnecessary to have them in this session. So we're just gonna focus on ready for dev, and status in ready for dev. Again, do not forget the parentheses. And at the very end, how do you want to order your list by? You're gonna have it order by sprint and then ascending. That way, you can see all of the unpointed stories from sprint 32 all the way to sprint 33, 34, until the stories that are not even in any sprints. So that's for creating the game backlog. Now for the game itself. So for starting the game, all you need to do is just scroll all the way down to the page and find next start game. Press on it. So the product owner, usually she's gonna lead here. She's gonna say, now we're gonna start estimating OLCI 24044. So press on it, estimate. So for this step, for estimating, the product owner usually leads this part. I press on the link. That way we can speak to the story as we're going through estimation. And the product owner is going to speak to the story. If any of the developers have any questions, everything will be discussed. And that's when we finally go to the grooming and estimating part. So for that part, all of the participants should be able to find all of the cards you can see on the screen. You have 0, 1, 2, 3, 5, 8. And for instance, if we have 10 participants, you could have 8 people choosing 3 for a story and have 2 choosing 5. So I personally, whenever that happens, I like to make sure that we speak to why those 2 people think the story is a 5. And if it's something that is valid and the rest of the team believes it should be a 5, then it should be a 5. If not, then it's going to stay a 3 because the majority voted for it to be a 3. And this is the process for planning poker for all stories. And I hope you guys now understand how to do planning poker. Thank you. You have an amazing day.